days of the week and all that. You know what I love about what Captain Pastor said? Two things. One, he said this isn't a police issue, it's all of our issue. They're not trying to lead it, they're trying to ask us to. But you know what I like even more? Nobody is set up as the president or chair or vice chair or any of that kind of stuff. It's like, look, if you want to go to the park, just let them know you're going to be out there on what days, so that there's an ability to see how your presence potentially impacted what activity went on in the park. And so I say, with all of that, I'm grateful. It's wonderful to see you here. We know that for the group that committed themselves in April of 2011, we know that we've got to start looking for other people to help us. We've been grateful for those who have been willing to come, and we hope that this will be an opportunity that you will help us, not just this June to September, but prayerfully every other June to September, and ask other people to do the same. Okay? Thank you very much. That's all I've got to say. That wasn't bad now, was it?
If there were any questions that anybody wanted to ask that kind of related either to just in general, maybe we don't have the answers, maybe somebody out there does. Why don't we open it up real quick?
I have a question, and this is a concern with the work I do. One of the things I often hear about is people don't feel safe going through the park as more and more people who are transient are struggling with mental illness. And I have seen some people who are, say, struggling with the voices that only they can hear, and it's bad. And if you don't know what's happening and how to respond, it can be very frightening. So I'd like to feel you out a little bit and say how maybe I could get volunteers who are trained, because there's a big push now for civilians to take over more of the low-level mental health issues as well. Would that be something you would look for? With no being an okay answer, but this is something I observe, and I hear a lot of people comment about not feeling safe that is never addressed outside of calling cops and the behavioral health unit showing up.
I've got a thought too, but you, Captain.
Yeah, I'll start. The answer is absolutely. Any organization or group, especially if we're dealing with people who are suffering from mental health related issues that have training, clinical training, etc., or if they're connected to, especially the city in some way, if those organizations want to be a part of this, we need them to be a part of it. There's no need to ask for permission. The idea out there, Sarah, that you're putting, absolutely. Any involvement that we can get that provides service to people that are in and around the park that are dealing with mental health related issues, it's critical. So absolutely.
Yeah, and I would just say, Sarah, and to everybody, there have been times when there are people who are in crisis. I'm not sure what the crisis is. But they're in crisis. And there are others walking through the park who may not feel comfortable walking around them. Here's one of the things that we've tried to do when it happens. It doesn't happen all the time, but it has happened, is that we give them our arm and we walk them wherever they're going. And so we become that shield for them and that protection for them if they're feeling uncomfortable, unsafe being in the park.
Well, that's good, but my concern as well for the person who's scared is for the person in crisis.
That's what he answered, and
Yeah,
I answered
so
the other half
thank
of
you.
that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sir.
So I'm Lionel with Man Building Man, and so we offer a lunch that we do it last Saturday, and if we was to have our barbecue at the park, can we be confident the police presence would be there, but also not just present, but would they participate with the kids, or how would that look?
Well, first of all, I think it's a great idea. We have our crime reduction unit at North Precinct that's led by Sergeant Sweeney, who's here today. I'll make sure he connects with you. They're going to be working every Monday through Thursday from 2 o'clock to 10, and they will be present in and around the park. Part of the focus on it, if people send us the information where they're going to be and when they're going to be there, is we're going to share it with his team. And if they would like to have police involvement at some level, whether it's just presence to help them feel comfortable, whether it's actual engaging, Because sometimes we know when we're doing outreach, we learn this from our great partners at the Office of Youth Violence Prevention and Outreach. There's times when the police being present isn't the most effective way to do outreach. And there's a time when it is, and hopefully the times when it isn't, we can create a relationship and then engage the police eventually. So if you provide a service and you would like to do some sort of barbecue activity out there and you want our officers to be there, we will be there for you, with the exception of if something major happens in the city where we have to pull resources, but that doesn't happen all the time or very often. So please, I'll make sure that you guys connect today, and we'd love to be a part of it.
All right, brother, thank you.
Anything else? We have a lot of organizations that are here, and I hope that our friends in the media can stay and come out and talk to those organizations that are participating to find out their stories and when they're going to be here, because it truly isn't about this here. It certainly isn't about this here. It's about every single person that's out in the stand or in the chairs and that are going to be out in the park and showing up on a regular basis. Consistency is the key to the success of this project. 100%, I believe that. Chief Modica.
Captain, Pastor Hennessy mentioned the gap created by the lack of support. And I know the Parks and Rec are the managers of that property. Is there any way to discuss or continue the discussion of what the monetary gap is? I happen to know, so it's rhetorical, it's a question to you, but I think the public needs to know. The residents in Lloyd, Lower Lloyd, and Sullivan's Gulch need to know what that gap is and how we get to a sustained momentum for not just this summer, but every summer and every spring break. It's very, very important.
Well, my answer would be something that I learned from you while I worked for you, and that's understanding my span of control.
So is there anyone from Parks here that can speak on that?
I can't actually speak on it.
That's not really our role. Sophia and I are partnering with and we can't speak specifically to that gap. I know the conversations are still continuing to see if there's any way that we can supplement that and get some programming in place. But as far as the partnering program, we wouldn't be able to speak directly to those efforts.
So that's a representation gap. And so I have diligence to ask this question in public because it's important. And I don't work for the Police Bureau any longer. I work for Senator Lou Frederick in District 22. And we have concerns about our constituents who use the park and live close to the park. So if there's any way that that question can be asked of Cypress Partners and Lloyd Center and of Portland Parks and Rec, it will be very educational to everyone that's involved.
I'd like to add something, Chief, if I could real quick. And I totally agree with you 100%. One of the things in our ability of our span of control that we're doing this year, and I'm sure we're going to look at things in the future from the North Precinct perspective, is we're not going to have our open house at the precinct where we use some of our internal money to spend to bring people into the precinct and try to share ideas and concepts with them and educate on what we're doing and hear from them. We're going to hold it out in the park. And we're using some of our funding to replace some of those missing funds. It is not the answer. I'm on board with you 100%, but I think that this group here, and I'm part of this because I am a community member here, has more influence than just me or one person, and maybe that's something that this group can have a discussion on and put something together and go forth with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I definitely appreciate your transparency, but this is not a question to be answered. This is a question that deserves an answer.
Absolutely.
Better than 30 days before.
Agreed.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you.
I would just like, I mentioned early that there were members of Connected who were here. I asked for people who had walked in the park before. One of our key people has walked in, also Pastor Sales, if you'll raise your hand so people know that you're here as well. So again, 8 years of walking in the park every Friday. So and I want to say thank you to you, Captain Passador, and to the Portland Police Bureau, to the parks, to the amazing work done by the street gang outreach. I want to get that group right. Is that what it's called? Okay. You guys have done a great job. I mean, listen, it takes all of us, right?
Yes.
You all have done a beautiful job, and we are really grateful for each of you. But again, by the fact that we're here today, says that we all, and those who are new to this, it takes all of us to make this a great success. And I'm really grateful and thankful for it. Yeah, Lionel?
And another question I want to know, is there any type of budget or anything that correlates with Holiday Park? Or is it just each group just pretty much does whatever they can? Or how does that work?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you in terms of Holiday Park specifically, so somebody from the Parks Bureau probably has. We have been thankful for the help from Antoinette's Office of Youth, that's another, what do you all call it?
Office of Youth Violence Prevention.
Youth Violence Prevention. Because again, for us, you know, we needed t-shirts, we wanted rain gear and stuff like that, and they were willing to work with us to make that happen. Other than that, the answer is everything we've done has been literally voluntary for these 8 years. Let mine know.
I would just also offer up the fact that in Lloyd, there is an enhanced services district, and there are many local, place-based nonprofit organizations that are looking to figure out how to help in a pretty substantial way with this issue. And so I would just say, I would just offer that up as really good news for the potential for the community stepping in and significantly figuring out how to continue funding, continuing to support the effort of Holiday Park programming and you know, I don't think it's not going to be a sort of from zero bootstrapped sort of situation. I think we have resources and I agree, Sullivan's Gulch, Lower Lloyd, Kearns, we all need to get involved.
First of all, I'm so glad to hear you say that, because a few years ago, Brother Maury and John Candid, who I mentioned at the beginning, went to a number of groups and could not get the kind of support they were looking for. So I'm glad you're here. Please don't go away, because we want to talk with you. And then Paul here recently from Go Lloyd has also been walking with us. He's now walked with us 3 times. If you've walked with us 3 times, you get a t-shirt. So he's time for a t-shirt. But the point being made is, please, if you'll hang around, we want to talk with you. We really do. Go ahead, London.
My last question, I promise, brother.
It's okay.
And so being present is important, but those kids out there are the most vulnerable kids. And do we have any type of resources as far as like some type of services, mental health, clothing, and something that we can offer? Because it's cool to go there and stand around and talk to people, but how are we going to help them long term? Because I used to be at that park when I was a kid, so I understand what's going on over there.
This is what I think, at least from my perspective, this is what I think is really important, and I really appreciate the question. Some young people in the park are homeless, but homeless because they want to be homeless. I'm not trying to be mean when I say that. They literally have a mom and dad, because we talk to them, we engage them. Some of them just don't want to do what mom and dad says to do. None of you have ever been that way before, I know. I'm looking at your perfect faces in here. But that's some of the issues. Some of the other is that there really are people who do need services, and what we've tried to do is really talk with them to find out what the issues are and to see if there are ways for us to connect people to folks that would be helpful to them from the county level or from the city level or something like that. And my feeling is, as you, again, engage people in the park, I would say please feel free to talk to folks and find out if those needs actually exist, and if they do, who we ought to talk to. And at the end of the day, if you don't know, again, Antoinette's office, Tom Peavy out there as well, are good resources to say, or perhaps the police bureau representatives or the parks representatives, whoever is out there that looks like they've got more information than you do, go get them. That's what we do, okay? Do you have another?
I would suggest also that if you're seeing a need that your group or organization can't provide, share that in the chain, the email chain, that we're seeing this. If anybody out there has this that they can offer, that would spur some activity from our partners out there who maybe aren't seeing what you're seeing, but have the ability to come forth with some sort of service, or maybe it's clothing, maybe it's something that they have, but they just don't recognize that there's a need there. Then that brings them in and gets them involved.
As I mentioned earlier, we, at one point, John used to pull around a wagon with food, and there was clothing and everything else. I just remembered Pastor Maury and myself and maybe some others, when there was a gap with some of the park funding, we actually went into our own pockets and also gave money to make sure that these activities could
Rides
continue.
home.
So, say that again.
We gave them rides home.